The Meeples Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies, Firestorm Games, and the generous donations of you, the listener. I'd like to thank you all for your very generous support. It's massively appreciated. The Meeples Miniatures podcast, episode 282. Working in the hobby versus playing in the hobby. With hosts Neil Shuck and Mike Hobbs, and special guest Mr. Tom Mason. This show was recorded on the 11th of December, 2019. Hello, good evening, and welcome to what, as it turns out, is the penultimate episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. I am, for once I can say this accurately, I am the Brummy Dwarf. It's Neil Shuck coming to you on a damp and cold December evening. More of what I just said later. If you haven't spotted the news yet, we'll discuss it later. Okay? In the meantime, we have a show to do this evening, and we have a very special guest. So first off, I need to make sure that my partner in crime is still with us. Hello, Welsh Wizard, are you there, sir? Mr. Hobbs?
Hello, Neil. I am here in Frosty Hill Wine. The top of the valleys, isn't it? It's lovely.
Not snowing tonight, then?
No. Well, I haven't looked. It might do. It might be.
So, how you doing? You all right?
Yep, all good. Yeah. So, what's this news? Have I missed something?
Oh, sorry. Have I not told you?
Yeah. What does penultimate mean? We don't have that word in Cardiff. How do you pronounce it? Penultimate.
Penultimate. Last but one.
Last but one. Oh, of this year. Excellent.
Of this year. Indeed, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, the last but one of this year, the last but one of the decade.
Indeed.
I
got a good feeling about 2020.
Excellent stuff. Yes. That's what I like to hear. Yes, good plan. Yes, good plans for next year. Yes. Okay, and we are joined. We have an international guest on this evening's show. So hopefully, welcome to a more pleasant part of the world, or at least at this time of day. It is the host of the Mini Sculpting Super Show, no less. The one, the only, Mr. Tom Mason. Hello, Tom. How are you doing?
Hey, Neil. Doing well. Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Tom was the unfortunate loser of the last round of lot drawing on our Patreon, and so as the loser, he has the his task was to actually join us for a show. So welcome. How is life in Kentucky?
It's pretty nice. It's sunny, but pretty chilly out. No snow or anything, but nice clean day.
Excellent.
That's good.
Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. I had a really nice Thanksgiving. Had a lot of family come down this way. Spent some time with my wife's grandmother, who usually hosts something at a big old family kind of house, and it was very relaxing.
Excellent stuff. Most excellent. Well, welcome to the show. It's good to have you on, and so the first thing we actually need to do is find out a little bit more about you, because some people might be going, who is this Tom Mason? And why haven't I watched his YouTube channel yet? Although I did notice that on one of your more recently published shows, we actually have a mutual friend.
Bill?
Bill, indeed.
Yeah,
yes.
I love Bill.
Yeah.
He was actually might have been one of my last ones. I've been on a bit of a hiatus, but I was very excited to get a chance to interview Bill for the show.
He wears off. I mean, he's a bit of a wonderful Tony, really, Bill.
Is that why you shipped him over here?
Shipped him. Oh, we deported. I mean, it really was. Yeah. We got time to a bed, shoved him onto a boat, and off he went.
Excellent stuff. Right. Right. So, Tom, would you care to introduce us to yourself and let us know how you got into this hobby and what you've been up to recently?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Tom Mason. I have a YouTube channel that I call the Mini Sculpting Super Show, where I teach people how to sculpt miniatures. And I feel that I can do that because I'm a professional miniature sculptor. I've been working in the hobby, in the industry for, I think it's been about 8 years. Well, no, it's been longer than that. Oh my gosh, it's been way longer than that, since like 2002 or 3. So whatever that turns out to be, 15 or so years. But I've been doing the YouTube channel for about 8 years now, to various degrees, and kind of picked up the last few, making it a little more focused and trying to get more specific kind of tutorials out there for people. But as far as how I got in the hobby, though, yeah, I realized that I haven't really told this story or thought about it too much. I had to kind of go back and dig a little bit. But so for me, it was really Hero Quest. When I really look back, I think that's what really got me into it. It was the board game with all the cool fantasy miniatures. Played it a ton with my it was my friend Cameron Craig. He actually got it first, and I went over to his house when we were youngsters and just started playing it. I think his mom even helped run a game for us. She was Zargon, and I just was totally enamored with these little miniatures. I mean, we'd always played board games and stuff like Monopoly and everything, but I had never, building models and whatnot, but never really was into the hobby until that point. That was my first exposure. But it actually wasn't until a few years later that I think I ended up coming across, there was these little tiny pamphlets they used to put in that game, and then there was a couple other random bits I think I found in a computer game once. There was a little pamphlet for actual Games Workshop miniatures, and I was like, what the heck is this? Does this go with this? Is this something else? And ended up tracking down a hobby store called Ryder Hobbies in Madison Heights, Michigan, where I grew up. And there was just wall-to-wall miniatures, model kits, stuff was everywhere. And I just, from that day forth, was completely lost to, the Lead Mountain.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah. I could go on, but...
No, feel free. I mean, the record is 45 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean... No, it's I've meandered since then. When I was there, it started with I think my very first miniature, I got it for my birthday, my 13th birthday, kind of official miniature, was a Games Workshop Warhammer 40,000 Lightning Claw Terminator. I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And then when we got back from my birthday, we were on a vacation, I went right back to the store, and they had the old MK6 Beaky Space Marine plastics, and they didn't have the whole boxes ever. They must have gotten a huge crate of them in at one point, but they broke them all up, so you'd buy as one sprue at a time for $6 or something. And I just spent
So you never got the classic RB01 box set?
Nope. They had it. They obviously had it at one point, but they broke it all out. And they did it with, I think they did it with the Fantasy Regiment also, the one with the dwarves and orcs and goblin and elf, dark elf, Skaven. They did the same thing. So my brother and I, we were always buying up those little plastic kits, and then as many Rail Partha D&D miniatures as we get our grubby little hands on, and just loading up with tons and tons of figures there. But
so what sort of games are you into?
Right now, I really like the kind of miniature agnostic games. The ones I've been playing a lot with my sons recently has been Dragon Rampant. I still have a lot of my old Warhammer armies. My son's bought some of his own and using some of the older stuff that I just don't play with as much myself. I love the new Necromunda. I'm a huge fan of the original one, and I thought this was a really great kind of update to that. Rangers of Shadow Deep.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that game.
Mm.
I'm definitely more, I'm an artist. I mean, obviously, sculpting and everything. So I love to play the games. I really do. But I always it's always been more important to me to get the look of things. So I think that's why I really like the more open-ended games like those, because you can just grab whatever you like and
away you go.
put them together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Lots of board.
as a professional sculptor, first off, what have you sculpted that people may recognise as far as your ranges are concerned?
Well, I've sculpted for a lot of different people over the years. A lot of people probably know my work from Reaper, but my biggest contribution to the hobby is I sculpted the majority of the Meeples Miniatures line.
Oh wow, yeah.
Megacon Games. Did a lot of other things when I was there as well. Yeah, those are the two biggest. I mean, I got started pretty early on with Magnificent Egos when they were around. I did some things for WizKids, several things for DGS and their Free Blades line.
Yeah.
Tons of other people, but those are the kind of the two big ones, Reaper and Mercs.
Cool. So how did you get into sculpting in the first place?
Well, being an avid miniature, collector and everything, it actually started with dwarves. That was my first Warhammer army, my favorite Warhammer army ever, and I kind of got to the point where I was like, man, I really want to make my own hero miniature or just some of my own figures. So I sat down one day at my desk and I got some Super Sculpey, and I tried to do it, and I wish I had a picture of it because it was just a lump and it wasn't scaled quite right, and I just couldn't get any details in there. And so I kind of just put it aside. But then I think it was probably a year later, I was talking with kind of a mentor of mine who ran the hobby shop I used to go to before he shut it down and moved on to other things. And he was really deep into the hobby and great artist too. And he found out and knew about green stuff, and he kind of hooked me up with that, what it was and where to get it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to sculpt something. So I just sat down and I made this like kind of goblin froggy guy, and it wasn't great, but it was kind of in a good scale, and it was completed and it could be molded. So from there I went on and I did one more practice miniature, and then I got on the One List Sculpting group at Yahoo, which just recently got kind of shifted around as Yahoo's changed their whole dynamic.
Yeah, they've just canned all their groups, haven't they? Yeah.
That's right. I think it's been saved, or at least most of the good stuff's been archived, and there's some alternate storage thing going on with that. But it's a cool group, but it's not really active anymore. It's really just good for all the kind of old resources that were there. So good for that. But at the time, there were a lot of people, a lot of professionals were on there. That's where I first came across Bobby Jackson, the Rodman brothers from Fortress Figures, and several other people. And they were all sharing tips on how to sculpt and get into the business. And there were actually a lot of companies, some big, but a lot small, just people looking to get work done. And somebody posted, and I reached out, and we hit it off. And basically my third miniature was my first professional piece for a little company called Fantasy West.
Your third miniature? Oh my word.
I haven't. I mean, I was in college at the time. I'd been studying art, so it's not like I don't feel like I was some kind of prodigy or anything. But yeah, it did feel good. It feels good to be able to know. Look at. I have a list of every miniature I've ever sculpted, and I can look. Oh, number 3. Okay, that was a commission. That's cool.
Right. Okay. So I'm assuming now you're kind of a freelancer as far as that's concerned, yeah?
Yep. I do freelance. It is. I just do it on the side though. It's not my full-time gig. I don't know if this is the best time. I guess we can get into it now. Yeah, I've always worked a day job and done a lot of freelancing on the side. I always kind of had it in my mind that I would do it full time, and it's the only thing I wanted to do. And that did become true for a time, but that now it's not. I'm back to working a regular day job, but I still really enjoy doing it on the side. I do pieces for myself, and I still do commissions from time to time. I'm actually kind of into it a lot more than I have been in a long time right now. It's a pretty big season for it. It's been fun to kind of dive back into it that way. So
cool.
And that sort of brings us on to what the subject of the main piece of the podcast is going to be about.
Yes.
Tom, would you? Okay, so when we do these Patreon shows, if you haven't listened to one of these before, basically the person who, as I say, the lot falls upon, has the opportunity to choose what we get to talk what we get to talk about, whether that's a subject or whether it's a game to review or something. So Tom, what did you decide that we were going to talk about?
We were going to call it the struggle between working in the hobby and playing in the hobby, which has been my struggle basically since I started my, first commission back in 2003 or so.
Cool. And that seems also remarkable. Pardon? Apt, yes. Remarkably poignant, given given our recent news announcement. That's what we're going to be chatting about a bit later in the show. But before we get there, we've got lots of stuff to talk about before we get there. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's time once more to enter into that confessional. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is proud to be sponsored by Two Fat Lardies, purveyors of the finest rules, supplements and gaming accessories for all your wargaming needs. Most recent in their offerings include the September War Anniversary Bundle, marking 80 years since the start of World War II. This is a 2-scenario book set for I Ain't Been Shotman. In accompaniment to that, you have a free PDF download of Blitzkrieg in the East Part 1 Poland, which contains a number of army lists for I Ain't Been Shotman. This is a free PDF download. And a special offer on the Kriegspiel Compendium, rules, scenarios and a map for this classic wargame. Don't forget that you can get more Two Fat Lardies by viewing Lard TV on YouTube. The latest episodes include parts 3 and 4 of Taking the Gemblow Gap, a playthrough of General Darnay, Rich Clark finishing his build of the Blacksmith, and Sydney's Battlefield Challenge. Also, don't forget that for your listening pleasure, you can also download The Oddcast. It's available on Lord TV, but also via your podcast app of choice. Two Fat Lardies. Play the period, not the rules. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here once more to confess our heinous crimes. I want to talk about heinous crimes. We love buying miniatures and games and stuff. And here we are to talk all about it again. So, what have we been up to? Now, you may remember on the last show, both myself and Mr. Hobbs were eagerly anticipating a delivery on the following day. And sure enough, we both received our copies of Tainted Grail, which was almost the latest Kickstarter from Awaken Realms. Yes, I learnt my lesson this time, and I did go for 2-wave shipping.
Woohoo!
I'm not doing that. I'm not getting caught by the Nemesis effect again. And yes, and so that turned up, and very, very nice it is too. We went. Funnily enough, we went for the pledge that included the miniatures. Oh my word, are they a bit good? Oh, I mean, do you want to chat about it when you talk about it, or do you want to chat about it now, Mike?
We could chat about it now if you want.
Okay, well, yeah. So what did you think? I must admit, I was a bit blown away because there's some of these things. It's like, crikey, these are a bit decent. Considering they're ultimately board game pieces.
They're very fine, very nice, well put together, lots of detail. But the guy who came up with the designs, he must have real nightmares. They were a little bit, they sort of blow your mind away a little bit.
They are a little bit left field and twisted, aren't they?
Yes, in a good way.
in a good way.
Yeah.
But no, they are stunning. They are. I think it's fair to say they are some of the best board game pieces I have ever seen.
Mm.
I mean, and actually, to be honest, they give a fair amount of war games miniatures a run for the money. No, they are.
Yeah, I'm just not sure what game I play using.
Well, there is the odd one that would make a really nice commander figure.
Yeah.
But as I say, some of the things like some of the multi-headed, the two snakes would go very well in something like Rangers of Shadow Deep. But some things are just twisted.
I love them.
They are lovely. They are definitely not heroic 32mm. They are definitely much slighter in scale. I think, especially with a couple of the player character figures, you have to be a little bit careful because otherwise they might be a bit delicate around the ankles. But so don't. So if you're going to see them, don't expect them to be these huge, chunky, 32mm things. They are very fine, very delicate, but they are stunning. They are really good, which kind of bodes well for Etherfields. Because I think that some of the miniatures they were doing for Etherfields were actually meant to be kind of larger scale. And it's like, ooh, wow. Because I missed seeing, because apparently they had these on, they had some of the masters for these on show at the Games Expo, and I missed because they were demoing the game, and I missed it completely.
No, we saw them. We saw the ones for.
We saw the ones for Etherfield, but we didn't.
Yeah.
But I'm completely missed the Tainted Grail ones. They actually had a full set of miniatures out for Tainted Grail, which I just missed completely.
Oh, I saw those. They were lovely.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, and okay. So, but no, they are stunning. So that arrived.
Mm-hmm.
Then, what else? Oh, okay. On the result, had a result that rocks the OCD person within me, because I found out a couple of weeks ago that Fantasy Flight are no longer going to reprint Imperial Assault.
Oh.
So it basically means that what's out there now is what's left. And I'd only recently got into Imperial Assault, and so I was thinking, wow. And we've been playing it with the app, so it was like, okay, so I definitely wanted a copy of Jabba's Realm because there's a whole campaign in the app for using Jabba's Realm, and I suddenly went, oh, in that case, and the plan was to get it for Christmas, and I happened to be down at Battlefield Hobbies and chatting to Nick, and he said, oh, I don't know if you've heard the news, but they're discontinuing it. So I said, and funny enough, we've sold a number of things already. I was like, oh, really? Now, they had a copy of Jabba's Realm in the store, and I thought, in that case, then, I suppose I better get it now, just to be on the safe side. Because it's the worst news for somebody who, like us, has something of an issue collecting an OCD and, wanting to have things. And I'm suddenly at the point of, all of a sudden, having step back and go, oh yeah, I'll pick it up and I'll just collect it. And all of a sudden, it appears that I now have a timescale. To kind of say, right, we need to need to start getting hold of this stuff before it starts disappearing. But yes, so anyway, so I bought my Christmas and birthday present early, and got a copy of Jabba's Realm, which I haven't opened. I've left it and given it to say, yes, wrap it up for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. You'll find the figures underneath the cardboard layer.
Thanks for that, Michael. Yes, public service announcement.
Always happy to help.
Yes. Make sure you fully explore the box. Yes. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to live that one down for a while, especially when you're around. Yeah. Moving on. Right. So that, and then there was the Black Friday. Now I've been avoiding Black Friday stuff because trying to be good, but there was this one thing I came across. Plastic Soldier Company were doing some ridiculously good deals. So, for example, they happened to have 60% off their entire Red Alert range. So I took advantage of that and bought what I thought were the only two expansions that I didn't own, which were the Asteroids and the Rift expansion. Only to discover while I was entering them on Board Game Geek that I went, hang on a second, what's this? What is this other expansion? What is this Quartermaster expansion? There's this other expansion, which I knew nothing about. I think it's obviously. I think it's come out later, but I didn't know about it. Anyway, so it's it basically just it's an extra 7 scenarios and some extra different units for each side. So it's there's no more models in it. It's just extra cardboard and scenarios. So that's immediately on the shopping list. So that was that. So I didn't do too bad in the end. Other people suffered more than me over Black Friday. Yes. Sorry, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Yeah, I did get called for that one. And then last night, actually, or yesterday, I had 2 Kickstarters turn up. Which was a very pleasant surprise because they've turned up on time, fully completed, and that is right. First off, there was from Perfect Six Miniatures. They had a new pack of female. I think they're called Night Hunters. Basically, they're female witch hunters. The typical kind of Witchfinder General hats, but they're kind of they're kind of late medieval, but one of them's got, I suppose it's a matchlock pistol. But they're nice. Sculpted in resin, really nice castings. Very nice indeed. So they turned up, and then the Baron Wars stuff. Remember we had our Andy Hobday on not long ago at all, only a few shows ago. Well, that arrived. So that's turned up in no time at all. Considering they were producing, I think it's about 16, 17 packs. It says 16, 17 packs of figures in the end, including all the extra bits that they added in. But that turned up as well. And they're very nice. And I think that's about it. It's enough. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yes, I've avoided backing any more Kickstarters. I think that is about it. So, that is me. So, Tom, how has your your hobby collecting gone recently?
Well, not quite as extensive as yours, but I've been actually trying to cut back a lot recently. I actually read an article that Joseph McCullough put up on his blog. I think it was probably a few months ago now. He was talking about I don't know I can't remember the title of it, but the premise was, and just to preface this, he's not preaching, he's not telling everybody you have to do this, but what his article was about trimming down his lead pile to a manageable level to where he can actually enjoy it and get to things that he wants to work on and actually paint, which is something I've really felt strongly about doing recently. So I think his premise was he pared himself down to 50 unpainted figures.
Madness. complete.
It is
and
madness.
utter
You're
madness.
totally right. I have been able to cut down quite a bit, but I am nowhere even close to that, and I have no idea if I ever will be able to do that. We'll see. I started putting up several things on Facebook groups, to just unload some of the figures that I didn't think I would ever get to, and I was doing okay. I was selling off several of them, and then all of a sudden, this guy messages me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in trading?" I said, "Well, yeah, probably. I mean, there's not a lot of things that I jump at, but if you have any old hammer, especially dwarves, or maybe some Empire." And then what does he do? He sends me tons of pictures of all these dwarves, the exact specific ones that I need, that I've been trying to collect for the last several years and since my childhood. The old Games Workshop Marauder line, specifically. Yeah. Allie Morrison and Alan Dixon. Those are probably hands down my favorite miniatures. And it was my first army, and I ended up selling a lot of them back in the day, but I still had quite a few, and then probably 5 or so years ago started to recollect them, and I've got quite a lot. I'm very close to completing the set of everything. So yeah, so he sent that to me, and I think I did end up netting fewer miniatures, which is good. So there's less miniatures to paint, but I still got a lot for my collection. And then the same guy, after we get done trading, posted more on the Facebook group, the Old Hammer Trading Company. If anybody's looking around, it's a great group. He had more dwarfs for sale. I said, "Wait, I didn't know you had these too." So I just gave him my list, and actually I will be buying those tonight when he sends me the total. So that's been my miniature buying. I picked up a really cool game. I just went on a little vacation with my son for his 13th kind of year, just a nice special trip. He wanted to go down to Harry Potter World, and so we went down there in Florida, and we ended up at a Cool Stuff Ink shop down there. Yeah.
Well, hang on a second. What they have a Harry Potter World?
Yeah, well, it's part of Universal Studios, so they've got Universal Studios has I think they call it Harry Potter World or the experience, but it's one corner of Hollywood or Universal Studios, and it's a recreation of Diagon Alley in that park, and then you can actually ride the train as if you were getting on the 9 3/4 rail or station, and ride that over to the other park, which is right next door. Islands of Adventure, and then you come out in Hogsmeade, and it's a whole nother recreation of the Harry Potter experience. It's really wild. It's amazing, especially Diagon Alley. You feel like it looks just like the movie, like you're standing in it. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. Anybody, if you're a Harry Potter fan, I really recommend anybody should go there and check it out. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, so my son's really into Yu-Gi-Oh! So when we were on this trip, he wanted to find a game store desperately and buy some cards. And so we ended up at a Cool Stuff Inc., one of their brick and mortar stores. And I'm looking around at the board games while he's doing this card. And I come across a game called Dig, which I had never heard of. And it was actually a little bit tough to find when I was searching. But I guess I did a Kickstarter a while ago. And it's this really cool push your luck card game. Like they're just these square cards, and you kind of represent, you have your little miners and you're digging in these tunnels, and you can kind of dig one at a time, and maybe you get good stuff, maybe you get bad stuff, but you can also get these little workers, so you can be digging up to 4 tunnels at once. So if you dig outside of your tunnels, you just get one little gem or maybe a bad thing. But if you have multiple workers digging multiple tunnels, you could flip out a lot of cards at once, but you're upping your chances of having something bad happen. And so I picked that up. And that turned out to be a really, really fun game. And then let's see, I did back 2 Kickstarters recently, which I haven't been backing a lot of Kickstarters recently. I tend to look for smaller endeavors and things just I can't get otherwise. It's so easy to just go way too far deep as I used to back in the day. But I just backed a thing called Dice Tower Brick Set, which is just a Lego dice tower, but I just backed it for the instructions because I got tons tons of Legos. I can build the tower myself. I just need to know how to do it. And then the other one that I thought was really cool looking was something called Spire's End, which is a solo and cooperative card adventure game. So the art's like really interesting and graphical. It's kind of got a black and white ink style for all the characters with this striking red that it throws in there from time to time. And I'm not sure how to describe it. It just looked like it was kind of a really interesting way to play like a simple storied adventure with very light mechanics to kind of walk you through a story. So I don't know. It's pretty fun. So we'll see when that comes. But
Cool.
so that's what I've been getting.
Excellent stuff. Right then. So,
I've been good.
Mr. Hobbs.
Yeah.
Really?
Like yourself, Neil, I've had 2 Kickstarters turn up. So the aforementioned Tainted Grail, which came in a very nice box. My cats were very impressed with the box. And Heroes of Stalingrad also turned up. Yes.
Oh, yes.
And much like Mr. Hickman, that was a surprise. Wouldn't expect that to turn up. So,
Yes, more news about that later. Yes.
so yep, that one. I did a pre-order for the Aliens RPG, which arrived this morning. And I'm looking at it now, and it's lovely.
Mm.
So,
Yes, because you actually got to play that, haven't you?
yeah, I played it at the Grog Meets,
Mm.
and I died horribly. But I wasn't killed by an alien. I took out a very nasty corporation person.
Because they were talking about that at the Games Expo, and I must admit I was gutted when they turned around and said, "Oh no, we're not. We haven't got it on sale here. It's not coming till November."
Mm.
And I must admit I've kind of been in the kind of, okay, do you get the whole thing? Because there's lots of stuff available for it, isn't there? There's like 2 sets of dice, some cards, obviously the GM screen, and there's I think a couple of scenarios out for it.
Yeah, you don't need the dice. They're just normal D6.
Right.
You just need 2 colours of dice, about 10 of each.
Yeah. Cards useful?
Not so far, because I haven't played with it. But the cards, you get 22 weapon cards, 20 character cards, 3 vehicle cards, and 10 initiative cards.
Right. So they basically save you writing stuff down on a piece of paper. Is that basically what they're there?
Kind of guessing, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, the role playing book, which is very large and heavy. The Game Mother's Screen, which I think is a lovely title.
The Game Mother's Screen.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep. So that looks good, and I also got the Maps and Marker Pack because it's a large, full-color, double-sided map. Decided to pick in a charted space, and you have a floor plans for the Chariot of the Gods cinematic scenario. And game markers for keeping track of characters, motion tracker ping, spaceships, and spatial combat actions. So that's what I got. It all looks lovely. So that was that one. What else did we get? Oh, a bit of a gutter.
Yeah.
Cubicle 7 are no longer doing the One Ring.
What?
Yeah, they've had some sort of issue with the company that's, I think they own the rights to the One Ring. They definitely did the initial design of it. I think Cubicle 7 were doing the manufacturing and stuff. So they had a falling out apparently. So they're not doing the One Ring in 2nd edition, which was a bit of a gutter because I pre-ordered the rule book for that. So I had the choice of getting store credit or a rebate, but the store credit was like 120% or 125%. So I thought, I'll have that.
So what did you buy?
I haven't bought anything because they seem to have lost my email and just sent me a rebate. So I'm seeing if I can get them to turn that around. There's a few things I do fancy on the Cubicle 7 site.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I've actually gone into a shop and bought is Judge Dredd, the miniatures game. And that is very nice. Yeah, figures are this sort of rustic stuff. It's bin cast plastic. But they fit in quite nicely with the mongoose ones I got,
Cool.
which is always good because I got a few mongoose ones.
I was going to say you got the odd one or two mongoose ones, haven't you? If anybody's seen your Twitter feed over the last couple of days and saw the photos of those two shelves of miniatures. Oh my word!
Yeah, and I've still got a little box full of whatever, 50 or 60 figures.
Only a small box.
Small box. I've done all the big ones. I mean, all the vehicles are done, thanks mostly to Vlad. Thank you, Vlad. And most of the figures are done either by myself or by Gareth. So, I made a good start. So, but the game looks nice.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because we were chatting about that a couple of weeks ago, weren't we? So,
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, it follows on from the Strontium Dog game, which again is lovely. But they are going to be doing things like proper vehicle rules and scenarios where you can sort of, have car chases and stuff like that. And yeah, it looks nice. They've done a good job on it. And that is about it, really. See, I've been good. Christmas has been fine.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, so, before we wrap up, just say, he's spotted anything shiny? Anything interesting on the horizon?
Yes. Games Workshop again. God damn them.
Really?
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings, Rohan.
That new stuff looks great.
Yeah, the buildings especially look amazing. I'll definitely be getting some of those when they come out. And I'm kind of tempted, following on with 2019 being the year of role playing, by Wrath and Glory, which is the 40k role playing game that Cubicle 7 now do.
Oh, okay.
So seeing I have a rebate,
So you have money burning hole in your pocket.
Yeah. Currently have money stuck in my PayPal account. It would be a shame not to spend it. So I might get some of the. I might get the Wrath and Glory starter set to total up with it. I do like a starter set. That's all I've seen. What about you guys?
Cool. How about you, Tom? Anything?
I'm always basically like garage sailing for miniatures. I've got all these old things that I'm always. There's like older Empire Games Workshop. I'm very big into the old Hammer and kind of style of figures. But oh man, is there anything newer that I'm really looking forward to? Man, I do kind of have my head in the rearview mirror these days, it seems. So I'm not sure. It always hits me out of nowhere, and then I'm like, dang it, I wasn't planning on that yet. That's, I'm sure, what'll happen at Adepticon this year when I go there. So
yeah. For me at the moment, well, as I say, other than having the shock news that all of a sudden my I need to expedite my potential purchasing plans for anything Imperial Assault related. Was looking on been looking on the Monolith Facebook page because was it 6th of January? Is it they launched the next Conan Kickstarter?
Sixth.
This is for the versus. This is for versus mode for Conan. Because they were asking a question today about what would be the best way of packaging miniatures, because essentially they're turning Conan into a skirmish game. In the same way.
Oh, that's cool.
In the same way that they've done with Batman, and in the same way that Mythic Battles works. Interestingly, they're going to be producing. I think they're actually going to produce a different way of playing Mythic Battles. So you can play Mythic Battles using. You will be able to play Mythic Battles using the essentially the versus mechanics from their Batman and Conan, as opposed to from the usual game mechanics. Anyway, but
they're doing this sort of core system
beyond it's beyond monolith, isn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, it does sound like a good idea because it gives you everything you need, to play a versus game, plus the basic rules, and then you literally get little bolt-ons. So you have that Conan bolt-on, you have the Mythic bolt-on, and so forth. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So apparently this Kickstarter, they're producing either four faction box sets plus a set of mercenaries. Each faction box set will contain miniatures plus a double-sided playing board. Yeah, that looks like that could be really interesting. And I mean, they turn around and say you don't need to buy this if you own Batman.
Yeah,
the Versus thing for Batman.
Mm.
Unfortunately, Josh owns the Versus thing for Batman. the Versus expansion for Batman. It's not mine. It's Josh's. So because say Josh went for Batman as I previously gone for Conan. So I think looks like I might have to do the initial purchase. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that I was kind of looking at and saying, 6th of January. Yeah, and then as I say, it's the Alien RPG.
Mm.
If nothing else, the core book, and then see where we go from there.
Yeah,
that looks really cool. Right, well, if that's everything, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, it's time to chat about what games we've been playing, what else we've been up to in the hobby. You never know, some of us might have even painted something. Okay, so it's that time of the show where we talk about what we've been up to in the hobby. This time should be relatively quick for me. Painting, nothing. Not been in the mood. To be perfectly blunt, I have this undead army sat undercoated on a on a tray, staring at me accusingly every time I look at my painting table. Kind of going, it's been several weeks since you undercoated us now. Why haven't you? And I've just not been in the mood.
Yeah, but Neil, we've spoken about this. You always got to, when you undercoat something, you primer, you've got to give it 6 months to harden off.
This is it. This is very true. So I need to go find something I undercoated about 4 months ago.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah. So I think
that timeline sounds about right.
Yeah, not got anything painted. I'm hoping that sometime between now and the end of Christmas, I might actually manage to get brush applied to miniature. But I'm not holding my breath. We'll wait and see. But no, I'm just in one of those painting. Another one of those painting doldrums. I'll just say another one of those painting doldrums at the moment. Yeah, I need to re-engage with that half an hour a day thing that we keep talking. Yeah, that we keep badgering on about every so often, because it does work. There's no doubt about it. It does work, but I'm just not there yet. Okay, so playing a couple of games. Managed to get another, not one but 2 games of Gloomhaven in. Well, actually, it's 2 halves because we had to split a scenario in 2 because we basically ran out of time, so we had to do it over 2 sessions. But no, Mr. Luff, having been, he's been suffering a cold for, I don't know, weeks. He was finally available, so we've managed to get a couple of games of Gloomhaven in. Still haven't completed the main. I mean, we've played something like 30 sessions now. So remember that's like 2.5, 3 hours a session. We've still got, I think, something like we got at least half a dozen scenarios left before we complete the main storyline. Yeah, it's okay. I must admit, I'm not as in love with it as I was at the beginning. It does seem to have been dragging on a little bit. It doesn't help that we had this essentially 2 months break when we couldn't get together when we totally failed to get together to play it. But yeah, so got a couple of games of Gloomhaven, and then the aforementioned Heroes of Stalingrad. We found ourselves in a situation where it was just myself and Mr. Hickman. So we kind of went, well, you just had Heroes of Stalingrad, haven't you? Okay, I'll come over and teach you how to play it, because it's going to be similar to Heroes of Normandy and similar-ish to the card game. So I thought, that's got to be the situation. So tell you what, I'll come over and teach you. So yeah, played the introductory scenario for Heroes of Stalingrad, which Dave really enjoyed, and yeah, it was all right. It would have been so much better had Dave not been a tad over enthusiastic and punched all his card out and just punched everything out into the box before we got there.
That's a rookie mistake.
Because it's like, well, hang on a second. Many of the punch boards are like faction specific and like unit specific, and so everything for a particular unit is together on one board. Where is everything? Oh, it's in the box. So we spent at least 3/4 of an hour of the evening sorting out all the tokens, and there are a number of them.
Yeah. The storage solution they do is very useful.
All right. Well, he didn't get that.
Again, rookie mistake.
Yes. But yeah, it has to be said. Well, I mean, if anybody's seen any of the other hero stuff that's Devil Pig done, it's very good production values. And yeah, perfectly decent game. So
it is a lovely game.
Yeah, as I say, I think on Heroes of Normandy, I think I was just put off a little bit by especially some of the vehicle rules. What do you mean you can reverse as fast as you drive forward?
It's very small scale, Neil. It's fine.
Yes.
The idea is that they're advancing slowly and retreating really, really quickly because they want to get away from something. It makes perfect sense.
I'm sure it does. Possible. I still remain to be fully convinced. However, yes. So we played Heroes of Stalingrad. Yeah, that's about me, to be honest. Not a huge amount. We've had a couple of interruptions on gaming nights. So, oh yes, one other thing, we did manage to get another game of Thunderbirds, which the cooperative game, the Pandemic clone.
Is that the one based on the old TV show?
Yes.
Or is this something else? Okay. I think I've had to play that once. It's been out for a while, right?
Yeah, it's the one published by Modiphius. It was authored by Matt Leacock, who obviously did Pandemic.
Yes, okay.
They produced it for the 50th anniversary of the TV show. And because it's an official game, all the artwork is from the TV show. And so loads of so all the cards have photos from the shows and everything. It's brilliant. It's a nice little game. Got to play that in, which was not. It's one of these games that, because I mean Josh is a huge Thunderbirds fan, because obviously it's especially in the UK, it's a generational thing, especially amongst lads that you tend to grow up watching a repeat of Thunderbirds because they used to repeat the show about every 10 years. And he fell in love with it, so he's got it all on DVD and stuff. So they had a copy on sale at the Games Expo this year, so I managed to get a copy for his birthday. But that's a good game. It's a really good game. I mean, again, it's obviously based on the Pandemic mechanics. So if you like that style of game, it's obviously but just has the overlay of Thunderbirds theme. It's good. Right, but that's what I've been up to. Yes, so games played, but otherwise no other hobby done. How about yourself, Tom? What have you been up to recently, as far as on the old gaming and painting front?
Yeah, well, I was doing a bunch of painting earlier this year, trying to get army painted and ready for some shows to play games at, and then that was over the summer, and I kind of basically just took a break and didn't really get back to the table for anything except for I think I painted one goblin squig hopper, but then just this past week I finished painting he's going to be my tracker for Rangers of Shadowdeep.
Yeah. I
played with him unpainted last year, and I was mercilessly taunted. So I got him painted, and I had so much fun. It was a conversion or a kit bash with some Warhammer State Troop pieces and Crossgrave soldiers and cultists and all that mixed together to make a fun little. He doubles as my treasure hunter as well for Frostgrave. So I finally got him painted, and then I went right in, and I didn't start painting another figure yet, but I went ahead and built another character for my Rangers of Shadowdeep companions, a little recruit. So I've got him primed, so I've got time before I have to paint him, obviously, right? A few more months.
Okay, so when you say built, given your skill set, does this basically mean that you decided, well, okay, I'm going to have him, I want to have this particular miniature, so you just went and sculpted him?
No, I did not do that. I actually, and we can get into that later, but I actually rarely sculpt for myself unless it's a completely unique idea for like a line or thing. I very rarely, if I'm making, if I'm putting together my for instance, my Goblin army or my Dwarf army or my Rangers of Shadowdeep, I actually go out of my way to seek out other people's miniatures that I really like, or in this case, I just instead of just using a kit as given, I get a bit from this kit and a bit from that kit and try and make it something a little more unique, but not a full original sculpt. So that's what I did with this one. It was cool. Taking some Oathmark pieces and changing them around, and I did sculpt a sword because I wanted him to have like a wooden training sword. So I did sculpt that from scratch though. So every now and then I sneak something like that in. So I got that done and ready. And then as for gaming, I mentioned I played a lot of Dig this past weekend, but a little bit before that, my most recent thing I've been doing is so my favorite game of all time, my favorite board game, hands down, is Twilight Imperium. I fell in love with it. Yeah. I fell in love with it with second edition, which was really just like a Uber Axis and Allies kind of game with some politics, but we played it all the time. And then I got the third edition, and we played that like crazy. And we got to the point where we were playing it once or twice a year, though.
Well, yeah, because you need to. Yeah, it's a full day job, isn't it?
Well, and even more than that, just getting the people that are willing to play it, that are willing to invest that time. That's a struggle in and of itself. Even if you have the time, you can't always get everyone together to do it. So,
because it's one of those games that you really do need to play with like 5 or 6 people, isn't it?
Yeah, and it really helps if they know what's going on, because it's not. I don't mind sitting long. Most of my friends who play it don't mind sitting that long to play it, but you need to know it. You need to understand it so you can, and then you enjoy it. When it's your first time and you're sitting there for 6 hours knowing you're going to lose, it's not always the best experience. But yeah, so I've started recording the factions that I played and what dates. There's something we did just because there was so much time between, and each of our play times, and we didn't want to repeat, because there's so many factions you can play in this game. It's like, well, let's try different things. And so we started to track them, and then so back on when was it? In the middle of October, we were like, there was a new guy at work that started and found out he liked board games, and it's like, hey, you got to come over and try this game. He never played it. He ended up loving it, so we played it. 3rd edition, and we loved it so much that I started asking my friends, I'm like, should I get 4th edition? Like, I love this game. I need to be playing it more, because it was almost like 2 years since I had played this game last. We just had a lull. And my friend told me, yes, absolutely, get 4th edition. If you're going to play it more frequently, you will love it. So I got it. And so from October 19th to November 16th, we played the new version 4 more times. So I basically got 5 plays of Twilight Imperium in less than a month. It was pretty exciting.
Wow. Okay, so the question is,
Mhm.
4th edition, worth all the changes? Worth it? Is it a better game?
I think it is. I think it is. I'll echo a bit what my friend told me, is that the little, so the thing it does really, really well is it streamlined some of the things you use most often to just make them flow a little bit better, a little bit easier. As far as like the technology tree is a lot more simple to enact, but you still feel like it's a struggle to get what you really want or need, and it's different for every group. So, it's still got that uniqueness. But one thing they also did was there were a lot of expansions in that game and special rules. So even if you're in the base game, there were tons of different optional rules. Well, they actually took and made a lot of the ones that people were playing with almost all the time and just worked it into the game. So right from the beginning, they've got it being considered. And so it just helps it all flow a lot better. And I'm sure they'll do more expansions and it'll start growing again. But for right now, it feels like more of that full, complete game you would get if you played with all the expansions you normally would. But it also just kind of forgot about and doesn't include a lot of the excess stuff that really nobody was playing with unless they're just, I don't know. I'm sure some people are, but that's a whole nother level of that game when you interject some of the optional rules they ended up having to just make the game take even longer, which can be fun. But I really enjoy it, and the components are outstanding. The new ships, they're so clean and crisp, and the designs seem a little more unique. In this one, it's a lot of fun. I loved it.
Cool. I mean, I must admit, it's not a game I've ever played. It's a game I feel that I should play at least some point, but I've never actually managed to get around to playing it. So, right. So
I can see that it's not for everybody, but I'm a huge strategy game player. I grew up playing Risk and Axis and Allies, just like back-to-back games all the time. And so it's kind of nothing. It's actually better than those games because you have different dynamics going on rather than just crushing your enemy. You got different ways you can crush your enemy.
That's never a bad thing.
Yeah. But it is an investment, that's for sure.
Mm.
Excellent stuff. Anything else? Was there about it?
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Cool. Well then, Mr. Hobbs, what have you been up to? What have you failed to invite to me? What have you failed to invite me to this week?
Just let it go, Neil. Just let it go. Well, games played. Played Tainted Grail 3 times now. Twice solo and once with 4 of us, which was great fun. It's a very good game. So we've completed the first chapter.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, good. So we've saved that and we're going to come back to that probably after Christmas. Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing, 3rd edition. Our campaign has started. The boys have finished their first sort of real scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And we're now going to be doing... What I want to do between each of the main sort of scenarios is to have like a little sort of joining sort of session, should we say, where we sort of plan out what the next route they're going to do, and let them decide where they want to go instead of me going, okay, you finish this one, now you're back in the pub. Oh, and somebody says, I don't want to railroad them, so I'm giving them choices of ways that of things that they can do to follow on. So we're going to do the prelim for the next sort of scenario tree, shall we say, on the, and we'll do that, again, that'll be after Christmas.
Yeah.
But that's working really well. I'm really, really enjoying GMing now. My first real-time GM a role-playing game in a long time, and I'm just loving it. And we all met up, a gang of us met up at Firestorm on Sunday, and we played Chain of Command. So had a huge game of Chain of Command. So it was Jeff and Matt playing Germans in Normandy. We had T'other Jeff as umpire. And then it was me, Steve, and Ty playing plucky Americans. And we had to kick those nasty Germans out of a farmhouse and grab a crossroads.
Excellent. How'd it go?
Going really well until Matt planted a Tiger tank on the crossroads.
That was a bit unsporting of him.
Yeah, especially as Ty had just put a greyhound racing up that road.
A greyhound?
Yeah. Yeah, a tiger makes a real mess of a greyhound.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
It was one of those, comes around the corner, it's like, hang on, what's that? Oh dear.
Yeah. And of course, I had a pile of infantry charging towards the crossroads, suddenly confronted with a tiger, and then sort of tried to run across the field into a MG42. So that didn't work out very well. We Americans didn't. Well, we lost, but we did blow up the tiger. So well done, Ty, for blowing up the tiger. Moral victory all round.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But somewhat Pyrrhic.
We blew up a tiger. That's all that matters. So yeah, we did that. So that was fun. Other than that, I've been in a bit of painting funk as well. Up until yesterday, when I sort of sat down and finished off a load of Detritus Titanicus weapons that I picked up.
That was it. You were tweeting different weapons, different magnetic weapon fits on your warlord, weren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. So they're all done. So I picked up some of the Forge World weapons. So they're done. I've done a very nice Vanguard sort of dropship in 6mm, so that was gorgeous. That's lovely. And I've started some Space Walls, all 6mm. For my mad, let's do the Burning the Prospero game. Other than that, just doing the usual stuff, sort of card sleeving, sorting stuff out, making storage containers, stuff.
Yeah. Oh, on the card sleeving front,
Mm-hmm.
I do have a bit of news.
Oh, I've started tape rail.
No, as in sleeving wise.
Why?
Because, as you may expect, when it arrived for Mr. Hickman, it arrived with. He ordered it with the full sleeve set.
Oh, did he now?
As you do.
Yeah.
Or at least he did. And suffice it to say, as perhaps you may suspect, considering it's got about 700 cards in it, something.
There's
like
a lot of cards in that.
There's a lot of cards in it.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, once he spent Saturday sleeving. Once you sleeve them all,
they don't fit back in.
It doesn't all fit back in the box.
No, they don't fit back in. Yeah, I've only sleeved. I've done the encounter cards, and the cards are going to get used a lot. So the basic decks.
Yeah.
So I haven't done the rest yet. I do need to get some big sleeves for the terrain tiles. But yeah, I've done a bit of research. So I'll probably just going to rip out that big black plastic container and put them into card boxes or something. And store them that way, or wait for some nice firm to come up with a very handy,
storage solution that fits in the main box. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But, cool.
But yeah, that's about it really. So flirting around the hobby, shall we say, rather than getting into painting.
Right. Yes. You never know. We might fully engage. Before Christmas.
That'd be nice. And I do have to pass on a word of thanks from our previous guest, Mr. Peters, Mr. Wayne.
Right.
who wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody who listened to the show, who's been in touch with him, because apparently they've been inundated by people gifting them figures and terrain and money and stuff for the kids' war games club at their school. And he said, so I mean, both him and Carl, who's the other teacher who run the club, they're both absolutely amazed by the generosity of our listeners. So well done, all of you listeners.
Don't we just have the best listeners ever?
Don't we just? Yes.
Indeed. Thank you, folks. Really appreciate it. Cool. Well, in that case, if we have nothing more to chat about the hobby, it's time to take another break. And when we come back, get into the meaty part of the show. The Meeples Miniatures podcast is proud to be sponsored by Firestorm Games. Whether you need wargames rules, miniatures, paints, hobby accessories, scenery, board games, card games, all your role-playing needs, and even toys and collectibles, Firestorm Games is your store of choice. Check them out at www.firestormgames.co.uk or at their stores located in Cardiff, Newport and Swindon. Don't forget, if you use the code SANTAMEEPLE, all lowercase, you will get an extra discount on your order. Firestorm Games, for all your hobby goodness. So here we are, in the main part of the show, and as we teased earlier, we have a roundtable discussion for you. The subject of which is the struggle between working in the hobby and playing in the hobby. And this was Tom's idea. So Tom, would you care to introduce the subject for us and why you wanted to talk about it?
Yeah, so, like I mentioned before, this is something that I've kind of been wrestling with basically since I started working in the hobby. I got into this because I loved collecting miniatures. I loved playing with them and painting them and playing board games and all this stuff. But as an artist and a craftsman and person who growing into adulthood needed a job, I always, like many people, think, well, why should I just go work at this place when I could be making miniatures for a living or games or any number of way cooler things than whatever I might be doing? And so, but what I found, even when I started getting into it, with a day job and doing more freelancing and trying to move to full time is, I always push forward. That was always the priority. I always pushed forward, and the priority was to try and make it in the game industry. But I was always had this struggle and pull that, well, I still loved the games. I still had all my favorite sculptors and miniatures of theirs that I wanted to collect and paint. But every ounce of my free time was spent chasing working in the hobby. And so, yeah, I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about, especially with you guys. And like you said, it became even more timely with how the show's kind of wrapping up now and everything. But just, how other people doing the same thing. You're making this podcast, which takes a considerable amount of time. It is work. And, how you guys deal with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, as an intro, and funnily enough, Josh always asks, "Oh, what are you talking about on the podcast this week?" And I happened to mention the subject, and he turned around and said, "Oh, you have my permission to talk about my experience."
That's nice of him.
That's nice of him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can talk about my son with his permission as opposed to without it for a change. Yes. But anyway, you may be aware, but Josh actually spent some time working for Spartan Games.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it was very interesting. He had, especially as a kind of young, impressionable guy who met a lot of the guys at shows over the years and what have you, he had a certain idea of what it would be like to work in the industry, especially since we'd been down to see Neil and what have you, and ended up playing games and stuff because the upper floor at Spartan Games had a couple of games tables out and various other bits and pieces. So he had a kind of an idea and an impression of what it would be like to work in the industry or to work for a company, and discovered very quickly that his thinking on the fact that I'll get to I'll have to work, but also means that that potentially we'll get to play games and this, that, and the other, wasn't really anywhere near the reality of what it's like to work in the industry. And actually, it's blooming hard work. His impression of what it may be like to work in the industry, and actually what it's like to work for a small company, were very, very different.
So Tom, what was it like for you? I mean, because you were full-time sculptor for a while. I mean, did that have a direct impact on the hobby as a whole, or were you able to sort of juggle the two?
Actually, and this is kind of funny, my time at MegaCon Games is probably the best time ever, except for maybe now, where I was working in the hobby, but playing. Because when I was at work sculpting, I didn't have to use my free time as much to kind of struggle to make it, and to really push that extra mile. That's actually what enabled me to start the Mini Sculpting Super Show. I had more time for that, and I had a regular gaming group. So, funnily enough, for me at least, it's actually a little different. But with that said, I completely agree with your son's experience. It does change. Like, as fun as it was, I mean, it's still work. You aren't playing like you think you might be able to, because stuff still has to get done. There's still deadlines. You have to, in my case, I have to sculpt things, sometimes things that I wasn't super excited about, because that's what the design called for. And so, that could get a little bit tiring at times for me. But my biggest struggle,
that must be especially difficult when your skill is creative in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And you're having to sculpt something that doesn't necessarily engage you, but it's what the job calls for. That must be particularly difficult, I'd have thought.
Yeah, it is, and I think I guess a tip I can give anybody that does that, because you're never gonna. I mean, some people are really good at sculpting a wide variety of things, or drawing, or whatever, creating a wide variety of things. But I think more often than not, people kind of find a niche. I really like doing, human-sized characters. I love dwarves, humans, especially fantasy. But I can do sci-fi, and I do enjoy that. I don't enjoy larger pieces and creatures. There have been some, but they're usually a big struggle for me because I haven't practiced them as much. So I can't just kind of go to techniques that I know. I have to kind of look at more reference and learn more about this subject matter. And frankly, a lot of times I just don't get excited about them as much, because in my head when I'm sculpting a ranger, I'm thinking about all these adventures. When I'm sculpting a monster, I'm like, well, he's going to be on the table for a minute and my heroes are going to beat it up and they'll move on. So it's a little bit more struggle. But one thing I did as a creative to kind of push past that and make the time feel more worthwhile to me is I would always try and push myself to kind of practice a technique or push myself into learning something that I wouldn't normally have been working on if I was doing, just kind of a regular hero character. And that was very rewarding, and can help.
So, do you think it's possible to separate your day job, or whatever your day job is, from your hobby, especially when the two are closely aligned? So, for example, if you're, we're all gamers,
Mm-hmm.
the matter is, I couldn't imagine working in a gaming company because I would think that would destroy my hobby. I sort of think that you've got to have a separation between your work life and your hobby life. And I'm always quite interested to get behind the mindset of people who do manage to combine the two.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work for you? Were you able to get that separation, or was it always a case of I'm always in sort of work mode or hobby mode?
I think there's something. I think you're onto something when you say that. I'm sure there are people that do it very well, but in my experience, what I've seen and how I felt was, even though I was able to go and have my regular game group and play games, there was always kind of this pressure in the back of my mind that I should be thinking about our product lines more and playing them more and being more invested in it. But when I'm on my free time, there's so many games. I just want to be doing something else, trying something else. But there's always that struggle there where you're thinking, well, I mean, but we want our game to be the best that possibly be. So you want to take that time even outside. So it's definitely a struggle, and it's always in the back of your mind. It's not like a lot of other day jobs, that can be in your mind too, but they're totally unrelated. I create packaging for my day job, and it has nothing to do with, board games or miniatures or anything like that. So when I'm onto that now, it's a completely disconnected endeavor. Yeah,
I'm saying my day job is nothing like anything I do in hobby. So my hobby is just pure relaxing. It's a time for me to get off the computer screen and spend time with my friends playing games or painting or doing stuff away from the computer. And like I say, I couldn't imagine working in the industry. And I sort of wonder how people.
So how did you feel and get on when you were doing? It's like when you were like, for example, helping Bill run the store at shows, or when you were doing demo games. I mean, did that feel like a job of work for you, or
no? Not at all. No, I mean, I work in the IT field. My day job is computer work, coding, writing applications, security stuff. It's a very insular job. I chat to people on the phone all the time and we have Skype conversations, but I don't really see many people. So going out, getting out of the house, and, driving to, for example, Bobbington Museum with Bill to do a show, that was great fun. Stand behind the desk and chat to people and sell them stuff. Brilliant stuff for a day.
Yeah.
I'd do my boxing if I had to do that all the time.
Yeah. It's an interesting one having had being in the situation that we are with. Well, it was not only the podcast, but then what came afterwards with the fact that especially with myself, that I then ended up being a reviewer and then a magazine columnist, and then doing other bits and pieces as well. It did definitely change my outlook on certain things. So, for example, it was interesting at one point, not that many years ago, I was hanging out for the evening with the great Guru Luff himself, and he turned around to me and said, "Neil, if you're not careful, you're at a point where you're going to be somebody who talks about gaming, writes about gaming, but doesn't play any games.
Yeah.
That actually wasn't that long ago. In the grand scheme of things, that wasn't that long ago. That was only probably about 4 or 5 years ago. It might have been a bit longer, but it was in recent memory, to the point where I actually made an active decision to turn around and say, I need to play more games. My time was appeared to be taken up when I wasn't. When we were, obviously, again, this isn't my day job. Like Hobbs, I work in IT. I suppose the whole podcast and magazine columnist, reviewer, etc., was kind of a hobby that maybe at one point slightly got a little bit out of control. Not that I didn't massively enjoy it at the time, but kind of looking back, you're kind of thinking there were times when, although it was your hobby, it had become something else. So, for example, spending a couple of days at a couple of salutes. Okay, so Salute is the biggest wargame show in the UK. Very busy. Also, a fantastic opportunity to talk to people, because obviously we're on the podcast, and also looking at recording, looking at writing column, and think about writing a review of the show and what have you. The big thing is, right, I need to go around and talk to people. So I'd spend the whole day essentially walking around the show, looking for people to interview, wandering around with my portable recorder, and spending the whole day trying to interview people. Half the time being told, "Yeah, love to chat, but can you come back? Can you come and see us after lunch? Because middle of the morning rush." And you can fully appreciate the fact that it's not a cheap place to trade at. First and foremost, people are there to sell stuff. But feeling that you've got to get interviews, you've got to get hold of people and chat to people. And having that trade-off between doing it because it's something you enjoy, and the opportunity to talk to people was brilliant. But there was no doubt about the fact that something like Salute was hard work. It wasn't a day that you enjoyed for the show, because you were too busy rushing around trying to get interviews with people, trying to look at stuff, make sure you get loads of photos. So, you've got stuff to write, you've got stuff to present. It was interesting, the fact that when I finally convinced Hobbsy to go to the Games Expo, up until the previous years I've been to the Games Expo, I'd always been on a press pass, and I'd always covered the show as part of the press. And Hobbsy, and you turned out to be Hobbsy, didn't you? And said, "I'll go, but there is no way it's going to be work."
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, Hobbsy gave me an ultimatum and said, "We'll go, but if we go, we're not working. We're not going and doing interviews and stuff. We're going to have a good time. We're going to play games. We're not going for it to be 2 or 3 days running around trying to interview everybody."
Yeah, well, I think the first time I came down for the one day.
You were coming out for the day, didn't you?
Yeah. And you were just running around getting interviews. I'm not doing this for 3 days. Yeah, I want to go and be a punter. To get back to Thomas, because I'm quite interested in his journey. Because so Thomas, you started off as amateur sculptor. You very quickly started taking on commissions. You then started to work in the industry, and now, as you've said, you've taken that step back out where you've got a day job and you're just doing sort of freelance work in your sort of downtime.
Yeah.
So what was the thing that made you sort of take that step back from being sort of full-time in the industry? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, I'll step back just a little bit further than that just to kind of set it up. So I worked so hard for so long trying to freelance and get to the point where I thought maybe that I could freelance full time, and then or I had in the back of my mind that I would make my own line, and that would be the big thing that'll push me over. And then I kind of was getting to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm busting my butt all the time sculpting all these things, and I don't know if I'll be able to sculpt enough just freelance to support myself and my family. And I was starting to realize, man, I play more and enjoy myself, enjoy my time. It's not worth just getting this extra money. And I was starting to wean off of it. And then that's when the guys at MegaCon Games approached me and said, hey, you ready to come? Because I was basically about to stop sculpting. I'm sure I would have done things for myself for fun, but and that was good, and it was a great time. It was a great, probably I think it was about 2.5 years. But in the end, it's kind of what we've said before. It's a tough industry there, especially now. I think when they first blew up, it was a different time. Kickstarter had just started. That's when you had a lot of little you have companies that consistently get high dollars, but they're typically the more established ones. You still have some outliers or people with more capital that can kind of get it going and kind of make their Kickstarters big. But it was a different time then. It was almost like the Wild West or whatever it's called, when people were staking claims to territory out in the Old West, and where people could really make these fortunes. And as time went on, that wasn't happening as much. It was kind of leveling off and evening off, and I just had to make some decisions for myself and my family to be able to make a better living than I was going to be able to there, which it really bummed me out, because I really, up until that point, I had never enjoyed sculpting more in my life than when I was actually working at the company. It was so much fun working off of Keith's concepts and actually being in there and having more of a participation in kind of what we were going to design, and even having a voice, into the game to, not much of one, but, I got to play and make suggestions and, just be a part of the greater scheme. But it's a challenging thing. And, as much as you love it, sometimes, it can't sustain, and then, you have to move on. That's actually one of the things I had in my notes here, is that I think a lot of this comes with a season of life, and I think it's very easy to get pulled into the mindset that you have to do it. You have to go all the way full in all the time, or you failed, or it doesn't really matter or count. Mm-hmm. But people's lives change all the time. You might be a single person when you start this, and you can afford to go with very little and just push for your dream, or maybe it's just you and your spouse. Some people have 2-income families, some people have no kids, some people have a kid and then they have more kids, and things just constantly change. And so I feel very blessed and happy with kind of where things went, and that I had the opportunity to go through it. And that's just something that I think I started to realize, is that there was still always this pull that wanting to have fun in the hobby and just do it my way, and not have to be beholden to the deadlines and the client's wishes of what something needs to look like, and just paint some miniatures or convert some miniatures or sculpt something unique for myself.
Yeah, because we know people who run their own companies, and we know people who run small companies, big companies, and the common denominator is the hobby kind of takes over. Mm-hmm. This lovely idea of, I'll go and work on a hobby, I'll create a range and I'll sell it and it'd be great, quickly turns into, I'm running a company, I've got tax forms to do, I've got to juggle suppliers, I've got to handle customers who are nagging me because they haven't had their order, even though they only put it through 6 hours ago and they're demanding it was sent already. some people survive that, some people don't. And
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't take that step of not knowing how much I'm going to earn each month. People who do it and make a success, I've got so much respect for.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
but there's a lot of people who don't survive it. And I don't mean they die. I just mean that they get burnt out
Mm-hmm.
by the whole thing. So you've got to be careful. You've got to try and strike that work-life balance, I think. And try and work out what really is important for you before you.
And that's that's what it boils down to is what's really important to you. I think we sometimes trick ourselves into thinking that do or die in the hobby is really the most important thing because we feel like it's the only way to be relevant. But I don't know, at least for me, I think the thing that when I really look back, the thing that really makes me happy is getting to sit down and paint and play with my friends. So I'm glad that I get to do a little bit and be kind of a person in the hobby still, but it's definitely not a priority in my life like it was when I first started.
Do you think you achieved everything you wanted to achieve with sculpting, or do you still feel that you'll just, it's something that you'll go back to full time? Or do you think that you've sort of got a natural step off point now where I've done that, I know I can do it?
No, if I had to make if I had to say that this is the decision for the rest of my life, make it now, I would definitely say I would not. I don't think I would try and go back into it full time or really go for it. I'm very happy. I love where I work now, and I like that I have the latitude to be able to work in the hobby a little bit on the side or do my own thing. But at the same time, I also don't feel like I've kind of achieved everything I wanted. I really, really want to have more of my own line. I have a small line, but I don't really work on it or anything very regularly. So, it just sits there, every now and then I sell a piece, but I've got a lot more I really want to do. And I've always dreamed of making a game. But that's always the struggle. Like you were saying, some people really seem to have more of the mindset and the ability to run it like a business. And I really just want to make it, Unfortunately, part of that usually what goes along with it is you need to try and sell it. And to be able to make it, I mean, you could, mock something up for yourself and everything, but, part of the reason we do all this, even when you're just playing in the hobby, I think part of the reason we do it is we want to share, look what this cool thing that I painted and are, fielding on the board. It's, and there's your army. That's cool too. And, we get to share that creative experience together. So, yeah.
Okay. So, you mentioned that your YouTube channel is currently on hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
So here you are with the Mini Sculpting Super Show. Over 18,000 subscribers. Which is a very respectable number. Certainly, it looks like you've been producing regular content for 5 years, plus some time before. So, what made you step back from that?
Well, this is a perfect example, I think, of the seasons of life kind of thing. I think at the beginning of this year is when and probably before the year before that, I was starting to do a little more I was finally getting back into painting. And then in 2019, I just said, I am going to really try and play in the hobby more than work in it. And I was trying to juggle both. I was trying to make the videos and play. And then I was starting to get back into freelancing, and I just realized there was too much. And so, and there was a couple other things juggling with the videos. I had some people helping me with the videos who no longer could, and so there was more work being put on me. And I just decided that it's okay. I just need to take a break. And so I decided to I was hoping to get some videos back up by the end of this year, but it looks like it's going to be more the first quarter. But I do still plan on going back to it. I really do. I really enjoyed putting that out there. One of the ways I really that really helped me grow professionally with the sculpting and everything was there used to be this sculptors meetup at Gen Con hosted by Sandra Garrity and put on by, there'd be various companies sponsoring. A lot of times it was Reaper, and they would basically just rent the room, and the sculptors would just hang out one night, like until midnight or later. And we would just all sculpt together and see what each other were working on and ask questions and things like that. And that always meant so much to me. And that's one of the reasons I started doing this, is I could start sharing my knowledge, and then I got to interact with other sculptors and meet other sculptors. And so that's a very important thing to me. But I just need to make sure and find that balance, because like you said, Neil, it's a lot of work editing shows, audio or video. It's a lot of work, especially when you're trying to make a seam polish, which I think you guys do a great job with that. But
let's be honest, Neil does a great job on this. I don't do anything.
There you go, Neil.
Yeah.
Yeah, he turns up, drives by, gives me abuse for 3 hours, and then says, "Okay, get on with that." Yeah.
It's really much.
Yeah, I can fully appreciate, and as we've been alluding to, who am I saying we? I will own up to this. This was my decision, which I I talked to Mike and kind of went, Mike, this is what I'm thinking. Is that okay? But
and I went, oh, what a shock! I never saw that coming. Oh,
yeah, but yeah, and yeah, as you say, it is. There is something of a seasons of life involved, and sometimes these decisions are sometimes are almost, you almost feel like they're made for you. Mm-hmm. There's no secret that in our particular situation. Recently, I've been massively affected by the death of one of my best friends, start of November, and that really made me stop and think. I mean, whether or not I carry on with the podcast has been something that has been more prevalent on our minds certainly on my mind since we took the summer off a couple of years ago, because we were getting to certainly I was getting to the point where we were struggling. We're starting to get burnt out. You may have noticed that Mike took some time off a while before that. So we've had times where we've kind of gone in and out and given ourselves breaks and what have you. But it wasn't until I took those 3 months off that I suddenly realised that actually, having spent 11 years at the time, 10 and a half years, working on what started as just this small thing and transformed into what it is now, that you suddenly think, well, hang on a second, there is something else. And so that really got me thinking about it. And then, as I say, with what recently happened, I think that kind of made up our minds. It's probably a conversation that we'll have a lot more next time round. But there are times when you suddenly think, what is currently important to me at this time? And your priorities change. I'm fully behind what you're saying about that, because that's very much kind of my current experience. But as you say, there are times when it does have that situation where it ceases to be a hobby, and there is always then that, I suppose, that kind of pressure where you kind of think, hang on a second, I never want to be in that. I never want to be in a situation where I start to loathe that which I loved. Did you ever think you were in danger of getting to that point?
I definitely was with the freelancing, and then probably a little bit with the videos, even as there was just so much to do. Yeah, I really thought I was gonna just drop the sculpting until things shifted, and then I realized, like, when I went back on left full time and went back to doing it part time whenever I want, I'm like, oh, I don't have to. I can still do this for fun and still be rewarded. I don't have to push as hard, and it can be more of a hobby, but I can still accomplish things.
How does it sit with you now? How do you feel your, for want of a phrase, working the hobby and playing the hobby balance currently is?
I'm a little,
And are you happy?
I am pretty happy. But I am in a season and it's about to shift. I've been doing a lot of freelancing, and I'm coming to the end of a lot of big commissions, and I plan to take a break from that. I don't know that I'll completely walk away from it like I did before, but I am looking forward to, now that I've kind of, scratched that itch, done some really cool projects, kind of getting back, like I said, to the videos and doing some of my own pieces, and more or so just trying to get. I really want to keep that balance. I don't want to be in a place where working in the hobby overtakes my ability to have fun, especially with the age my kids are at. My two older kids, my sons one is avidly into miniatures. He's painting almost every day. He's very fast and just really likes playing the miniature games. My other son's big into board games, and I don't want to waste that time, working for other people when I could be playing games with them, especially, as well as friends and things. So, someday they'll be gone, and maybe I'll shift back again. Gone as in moving out,
Yeah. It's a hugely precious time, isn't it? Yeah.
So, what have we learned?
What have we learned?
Yeah.
Well, maybe in all this, Mr. Hobbs, you're the sensible one.
That's a good point.
Well, because I let you do all the work. I suppose the thing is that whilst it must be everybody's dream to turn their hobby into their work, you've got to be a special sort of person to make it work. So, if anybody is considering it, really take a step back and think, because it could take over your life and it could destroy your hobby.
One thing I found really interesting on this particular subject, and it's not a slight aside, right? The Lardies are currently doing a audio advent calendar, which is also on their YouTube channel. So they have a little, it's 5 minutes ish chat every day, whether it's Nick, Rich, or Sid, talking about some aspect of their hobby. Part of which is the whole thing of them working together in the hobby to gaming. And it was I found it really interesting where Rich was answered the question, what was his ideal gaming day? And his ideal gaming day was actually essentially a day that was spent developing rules, where he was playing with Nick, and maybe Sid was involved as well, or what have you. But he was spending the day playing games. But actually, it wasn't just the playing of the game; it was the fact that they were developing something, and that was his ideal day. Now, there's somebody who has made I would say, more than a reasonable success, it would appear, marrying the two. Because it sounds, and especially with what he was saying I thought what he said today, was it day 11? I think it was today's. Yeah, when he was talking about, again, it's interestingly, it's something that I found in what we've been doing in the podcast. He turned around and said, well, he happens to be in a situation where he's working with his best mates, and I am recording with one of my best mates, if not actually my best mate, and that's something that has developed because of not only discovering a mutual love for something that we enjoy, but then obviously working together over a number of years, and it's just something that something that has been built. But there, I think, with the Lardis, and as I say, it'd be interesting with them actually talking about it, especially, I mean, they talk about it a lot on the Oddcast and stuff, but especially where they've been highlighting it during their Advent calendar. I thought, well, there is somebody who really has, it seems, got it, and seems to have got their head around the whole thing about working in the hobby whilst still it be, whilst it just not being a job of work.
That's a really good illustration too. I think that kind of accentuates the point of how I feel. It seems to be what he really loves is working in it. Whereas I think a lot of people, we end up loving the game so much we think we need to or want to do more. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we do it for a time, and that's enough. But, for me, the thing that I really enjoy the most is just paint miniatures and playing games with them. As much as I like to sculpt and create things.
Yeah.
My true love is the gaming.
Yep, same here. And that's why I know I could never work in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I'll flirt with it. I love flirting on the outside and meeting people and doing all that. I'm not going to make it my day job. That's just me. It is a tricky one, and I think you've probably made the right decision, Tom. You've tried it. You sort of thought, I'll take a step back. There's more important things, and that's quite a brave thing to do. Because sometimes
it's hard.
Sometimes you sort of
you're going to lose it.
Yeah, exactly. So well done, that man. And well done to Neil for finally deciding that.
Yeah, you too, Neil.
Yeah.
Hobbsy, I told Hobbsy, oh, thank goodness for that. Yes.
Well, I mean,
I've been trying to get out of this for 2 years.
Although you are finishing 2 episodes before my 200th, and I can't use the excuse of it's for research purposes anymore. I mean, in some ways, you've destroyed my life.
And on that note, I think we need to bring this section to a close. Congratulations, I've just destroyed Hobbs' life. Yeah. Okay, yes. A fine uplifting note on which to end.
Yes.
Santa Meeple.
A 54 convertible to lights blue. I'll wait up for you, dear.
Santa Meeple.
So hurry down the chimney tonight.
So here we are at the end of at the end of another show, and as usual, before we leave, it is time to talk about what Dave's bought this week. Now, you may remember on our last episode we had this puzzle left for us when I couldn't say what David bought this week because he had notification of a mystery delivery, and even Dave couldn't remember what it was.
But now we know.
Now we know indeed. And I was taken aback by actually what it was. The box that arrived, that he had notification, said, "Well, what is it?" So I have absolutely no idea. Turns out to be the final delivery of the Dark Souls Kickstarter.
Ooh.
So it basically, which is the Kickstarter that got Dave into board games. That's the first one he backed.
Oh, God.
So it's taken them the best part, as far as I'm aware, the best part of 4 years. It's at least 3, it might even be 4 years, to deliver Dark Souls completely.
Wow, that's doing a Mongoose Judge Dredd there, isn't it?
It pretty much is, yeah. I'm pretty sure, and I know it's at least 3. I mean, 4 years may be a disservice. I know, but I know it's at least 3. And yeah, because obviously, as you might expect, Mr. Hitman went all in.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, as you do.
Yeah.
Some of the models are really, really nice, because obviously they did an awful lot of big boss models. It's just a shame the game isn't better. After all, this is the thing. It's the fact, having played the game, the boss fights are really interesting. But in order to get to the boss fight, people are aware that Dark Souls, as the computer game, is a bit of a grind. You really do have to grind through and level your character in order to go through bosses, which is fine in a computer game. Unfortunately, I think they were a little bit too faithful to the computer game when they created the board game. So you have to grind through a dungeon to get through a mini boss fight and then a major boss fight. And what we played. I mean, we may go back to it now and kind of have a different have a different view on it. But I know at the time we played it and kind of went, well, we were expecting to be able to play it in a reasonable amount of time, and it took absolutely ages. And in this case, you've got to get through every room, and then you're going to do it again. And it's like, oh, good grief. So, yes, but 3 or 4 years to deliver a Kickstarter. Yeah, not best. But there you go. So, but what's he bought recently? Well, obviously we've just found out that that Heroes of Stalingrad arrived. Delivery to playing in less than 24 hours, which has got to be some sort of record. But the latest thing, and I believe they should have arrived this evening, is that the Atlantic Miniatures. Remember, they released a box of plastic halflings.
Oh yeah, I just saw those in War Games Soldiers. Yeah,
they were up for pre-order. And they have literally just come out. Dave had his shipping notice a couple of days ago, so they should have arrived Shea Hickerman this evening. The plastic halflings is the last thing. Dave is it's very uncharacteristic. He's trying to be good, although he's not so much being good as the fact of he's running out. He's very, very quickly running out of space. Which, when you consider he's got a dedicated games room, and he's not been at this for very long, is getting a bit worrying.
He has got off the he's definitely sprinted off, isn't he?
He does have this. He does have this tendency to kind of play Kickstarters like he's playing, I don't know, Texas Hold'em or something. All in. Right, okay, so Tainted Grail turned up, right? I said, what did you go for, sort of thing. It's stupid questions like, what level did you back? To which he, because he was saying, because he said, I appear to have got the Sundrop version of the miniatures. It was like, hang on a second. I am pretty sure that we discussed the fact about, at the time, we discussed that whether or not you were going to get the Sundrop miniatures. And when he got Lords of Hellas, Awakened Realms, they always kind of, when they produce a Kickstarter, they always kind of give teasers for what's coming next. And in the Lords of Hellas Kickstarter, they had a Sundropped. It was one of the aliens from Nemesis. But it was their, what they call their Sundrop. So essentially it's washed. Okay. Except the aliens also had they did the thing with the aliens where they also had blood splatters. Yeah. Liberally around on the models as well, which I don't know. It never looks unless you get it really right. To my mind, that never looks really that great. But there we go. But yes, he suddenly turned around and went, I appear to have got the Sundrop version. Don't remember ordering the Sundrop version, and obviously it was just the level he backed it at, which obviously means he just kind of went, I want everything. Click.
Yeah.
Because it's Dave.
Dave really needs to learn that when he comes to a Kickstarter page, he doesn't have to scroll right to the bottom to pick his pledge. He could start reading from the top.
Perhaps his scroll bar's stuck.
Maybe it is.
It goes Kickstarter, whoosh, right down the bottom. Oh, there's only one pledge. I might as well go for that. Yeah. So that is what Dave has bought this week, and I'm sure that if nothing else, he will appreciate not having the proverbial taken out of him once every couple of weeks in future.
Oh, well, we can still do it on Twitter.
Oh, of course, yes. There are ways, Mr. Hickman. So that's what Dave has bought this week. Which kind of leaves us at the end of the show. Tom, it's been fantastic to chat. Thank you for taking 2 or 3 hours out of your day. Well, it has to be said, in the middle of the day for you to take the time to chat to us. It's been fantastic, mate. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well worth it. I really enjoyed it. You guys are you might have been the first, if not one of the first gaming podcasts I ever listened to. So it's, probably one of your first earliest episodes when I started. So been with you almost the whole time. It's been great.
Well done, that man.
Indeed. Well done. Well done. He deserves a medal.
Yeah.
Quite if you've been with us that long, good grief. I mean, it has to be said, now we kind of said, okay, it's coming to an end, and people are kind of going, oh, right, well, in that case, then I'll go back and start and go back to listen to episode 1. I'm kind of going, no, don't do it. I listened to.
Do it. Do it, everyone. Everyone do it.
I listened to some of those first episodes, and I was like, really?
It is really cool to see how much the show has evolved over the years, though. Like, because a lot of that I've listened to that have gone this long, they stayed relatively the same. I mean, they might get a little bit more confident or whatever, but you have the same hosts, and it's been kind of neat how you evolved from just yourself doing it, and then brought in Mike and other people, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it's been good, but as I say, some people are going to say, "Oh yeah, I'll go back and start listening to the first ones." I'm kind of thinking, just don't do it to yourself.
It's at about mid-80s, say 85. I think
about show. Yeah, show. Well, maybe just a little bit with show 80. Maybe around the 70s when I had Rich Jones on the show, and then. But I mean, I think 85 was when you could say that vintage Meeples and Miniatures really started.
That's when it became for me. Yeah.
So no, appreciate it. I mean, Tom, and say choosing the subject and sharing and your struggles with us, really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. And
thanks again.
Yeah, I'd say, and all the very best for the future.
You as well.
I look forward to, and I must admit, I wasn't previously aware of your YouTube channel, so I look forward to catching up. And because as somebody who I've tried doing some minor conversions with green stuff, and not got on very well with it.
It's green stuff is tough. It's not my favorite material, but it is. But I do say it's kind of a must for conversions, in my opinion. So it is worth learning it.
I look forward to having a look through your vast catalogue of shows over 5 years, and your A to Z of this is how you sculpt stuff, and I will be it'll be interesting because I mean, what was it? Matt Slade did a course with Kev White, I think it was.
Yeah.
And was that about 18 months ago, something like that? And he was saying it was something he really enjoyed, and I'm kind of thinking maybe it's something I should have a go at, just to kind of even if it's just to kind of have a go at it and kind of think, I am just so rubbish at this, because to have a look to see how you guys create what you do out of the material you have constantly amazes me. You create these these little sculpted works of art, and I am constantly in awe of your skills, because I look at that and kind of thinking, if I did something like that, it would look. I don't know. I could probably. I was going to say something that looks like morph, but you probably know nothing about morph, being an American.
No.
No. Okay. Right. Morph is right. There was a. I suppose it's a children's TV show in the UK. It was called Vision On, but one of the things was it had a guy on it called Tony Hart, who was an artist, and his big thing was teaching people, doing basically presenting a kids program on how to do cool things and be an artist. But one of the things they did, it's funny enough, it was done by the guys who then went on to do Wallace and Gromit.
Oh yes. Okay.
He had this plasticine character called Morph, who is basically effectively a 3D stick man made out of plasticine, and I am sure that probably my best effort at sculpting maybe might look something like this kind of. Well, so I would say morph, there's like a plasticine character, as opposed to the works that art that you do. So, Tom, you have more than my utmost respect for what you create. I think you and other guys of your skill set are just awesome in what you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
So thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for spending time, and it's been fantastic to chat. You never know, we might get a chance to catch up again. That would be really cool.
That would be great.
It would be good. So, all that leaves is for us to thank once again Mr. Hobbs for coming on the show. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Neil. It's always a pleasure to be here. Let's do this again.
At least one more time.
At least one more time.
Yeah. One more time, indeed. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you. And finally, thank you to every one of you for listening. There's a lot to say, but we'll say that till next time round. So, until next time, happy gaming, take care, and we'll speak to you soon.
Are we really finishing, Neil? Or are we just making this up?
Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media, and here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.